Hey folks, this is Riker, bringing you a Diablo 3 2.1 Witch Doctor pet build. Now the great thing about this build is that it can work at the entry level and has tremendous room for expansion. What I mean by that is, this build performs well even without any specific legendary items. If you only have best in slot rares, yellows, you can cakewalk through Torment 1. When you do get certain legendaries, you can take this build to the next level. This build revolves entirely around building up a big army of pets and buffing those pets as much as possible. So let's go through the skills, and we'll actually go in reverse order, starting with the passives. Starting with Fetish Sycophants. With this passive, anytime you hit an enemy with one of your spells, you have a 10% chance to summon a fetish that lasts 60 seconds. Now you can have a maximum of 15 of these little buggers following you at a time. And the higher your attack speed, the more you'll be able to maintain 100% uptime on all 15. Of course, there's certain gear that can get around that, but we'll get to that later. Next, we're going to jump to Summon Zombie Dogs, Leeching Beasts. These dogs will be accompanying you all the time, and they form the base of your army. The Leeching Beasts rune will help tremendously with survivability. Back to the passives, we have Fierce Loyalty. This gives you one additional zombie dog, and while you have one pet that's not in combat, your move speed is increased by 30%. I really love mobility and move speed, but as an option you can even go with Zombie Handler. Instead of the move speed buff, you just get a flat 20% health increase to both yourself and your pets. The dogs and the gargantuan specifically, while still getting that additional zombie dog. Next passive we have Midnight Feast. This gives us an additional zombie dog and increases the damage of zombie dogs and gargantuan by 50%. Jumping back to the active skills, we are taking gargantuan of course, and the rune we're going with is Wrathful Protector. Now this is great to bring out for those elite and champion packs. We don't need our gargantuan to be with us all the time because we're going to have 5 zombie dogs and 15 sycophants. So the gargantuan is just going to come in to add extra damage and for that knockup. Back to our final passive, we have Grave Injustice. And this is going to help with the cooldown of gargantuan and our other abilities. Specifically, Piranhas and Summon Fetish Army. So speaking of that Fetish Army, again, this is a pet build. This is a 120-second cooldown, so this is really for those big fights. Again, the champion packs, the elite packs. But this will give you a nice boost to your Fetish Army. Now the reason I go with Legion of Daggers instead of Devoted Following is that the damage increase from the 3 additional fetishes results in overall more damage per second averaged over time than by having the cooldown reduced by 30 seconds. If you run the numbers on the math, that's how it works out. If you'd like me to, I can make a separate video where I go into painstaking detail over the mathematics of this, but otherwise you can just take my word for it. For our secondary we have Piranhas, Piranado. Now this is used more for a control effect than pure damage. The Piranhas will pull in enemies, knock them up into the air, and make them take 15% increased damage, which will allow your army to make short work of them. Now for your primary, all you really want is something that's going to activate the Fetish Sycophants. So you want something with fast attack speed and something that's able to hit a lot of enemies. The more enemies hit, the greater the chance of proc. So for that reason I pick the Piercing Toads rune that allows the frogs to pierce through enemies so it can hit multiple enemies with multiple chances to proc. And our last skill we have Spirit Walk, Healing Journey. Really you can do whatever you want here. This is purely defensive. This is an oh shit button in case you get jailed or in case you need to get out of a tight spot. Now as for items, the Mask of Jerem Helm is tremendous for this build. It'll make your pets deal a lot more damage. I shoved a diamond in there because I want to reduce my cooldowns so that I can use that Piranado more, so that I can use the Fetish Army more, and I can use my Gargantuan more. Bracers, I've got the strong arm bracers because enemies hit by knockbacks suffer more damage for 5 seconds when they land. And your Piranado is a knockback effect. And your Gargantuan produces a knockback effect. Again, this is all about buffing the damage that your army's going to deal, finding synergy amongst your skills. Next, you'll see that I have the 4-piece bonus for the Ashira set. It's really not the best set, but it's what I'm making do with until I can get something better. With the Ring of Royal Grandeur, I'm able to get the 4-piece bonus, and what's good about this is that the 4-piece bonus works well with the pet build. What happens is that your attacks have a chance to summon your followers, all 3 of your followers, even in multiplayer, even when you're in a party, and they'll fight alongside you. And you can have about 50% uptime on this effect. Of course, that means you're going to want to make sure all your followers are well geared, and very simple trick to gearing followers, main stat and vitality. They benefit tremendously more than you do from those stats. Of course, there's more nuance than that, but as a general rule, main stat, vitality, you can't go wrong. But do pay attention to what skills you pick on them, make sure they're all advantageous to you. And there's even certain legendary item effects that work on followers, so putting something like a Boriza on your Scoundrel is a good idea for that freeze effect. Your Enchantress can wield a Maximus in order to have that Fire Chain Demon summoned. Templar can use Azarath for chance to freeze, Genzanico to spawn the Fallen Champion that has a knockback effect, Thunder Fury, Odin's Son, Shard of Hate, all great choices. But of course, Ashira's is a suboptimal set. It'll be an intermediary step getting you towards your Endgame Gear. And to see what some of that Endgame Gear looks like, we're going to turn to my friend Lewis. He's running with a slight variant of this build, but as you can see in the gameplay, very similar. Fetish Army, Gargantuan, Zombie Dogs, Funny Frogs. And the first thing I'm going to point out is that he has the Zunimaza's 4-set bonus. Why is that so important? Your Fetish Army lasts until they die. They're not on a 60-second timer, they last until they die. This makes attack speed a little less important because you don't have to focus so much on maintaining that effect. Next piece of gear that we want is the Tall Man's Finger. Now in general, ring slots, we're talking Ring of Royal Grandeur. You're always going to have that in one of your ring slots. And then your other slot is generally always either a Stone of Jordan or a Unity. But for the Witch Doctor, for the pet build, the Tall Man's Finger can compete. What it does is it changes the way Zombie Dogs works. Rather than summon all those dogs, those 5 dogs that we're going to be summoning, you're just going to summon a single Gargantuan dog that has more health and deals more damage than all the other dogs combined. And the last piece of gear that he has that I want is the Reno Flayer. Plague of Toads now seek out enemies and can explode twice. If you'll notice, when I'm shooting out my frogs, they're just going in any random direction. This is going to target the enemy. And with the enemy targeted, we don't have to go with the piercing toads anymore because we don't have to maintain that uptime so much on the fetishes. Partly because they're always going to be up, partly because your Plague of Toads will be proccing more simply because they're hitting more often now. So if you want to go for maximum damage, you can do like Lewis did, go with Explosive Toads. But another good choice is Adeling Toads, and that's because they have a 15% chance to confuse affected enemies for 4 seconds. This adds even more control to the battlefield. That wraps up this guide. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment letting me know what Witch Doctor build you run with, or if you know of any skills or items that can improve upon this build. Check out the videos that are about to appear on screen here in a second, and until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.